What's up, YouTube? Big show here today, May 9th, 2019. Calen Carr, David Goss, Bobby Warshaw, myself, breaking down Major League Soccer's transfer window. What should the people look forward to, Calen?
Well, after they watch this show, they should watch The Movement on YouTube.
Oh, my God. Promotion off the top.
I had to do it.
But this is all you need to know. New toys in MLS. This is all soccer fans care about. New players, big priced players. This is what it's all about.
Specifically that the crew got a potential MVP.
Oh, potential is the key word there. We're also talking to Jeff Berding from FC Cincinnati. He just fired his head coach. Sam Stejskal and Paul Tenorio will be here as well from The Athletic. Extra Time starts now. Oh, from New York, you are listening to Extra Time, driven by Continental from the AT&T MLS studios in Midtown Manhattan. I am Andrew Wiebe with my partners in soccer, mis compañeros, Calen Carr, David Goss, Bobby Warshaw. Fellas, how's it going? Big show today, the transfer window. Woo, boom, slam to a shut. Sam Stejskal is going to help us understand that. Also, we have competition now on the podcasting front. With MLS, I feel pretty good about it because we have a mole within the call-up. Susanna Collins and Jillian Sakovits have their own podcast. It's bi-weekly. Dax McCarty was their first guest, but we're kind of part of it now.
Is that why Susanna's not here? I got the call up today.
Yeah,
It's a conflict of interest for her.
She's in
or?
Minnesota.
Okay,
But this could be the first of kind of the slow fade. You know, it's not a ghost.
No, you're here to promote your own stuff.
I was going to say I'm legitimately the only person here without a podcast.
You
That's
are on
the
Extra Time
2019.
Radio.
Well,
But I do have other things to promote.
You have the movement, man, and it's back.
It's back.
We're
It's
going to
back.
dig into that in here just a little bit. But transfer window with Sam, talking about the Sounders, about the Timbers, about Colorado, about the Revs, for which it didn't go so well. FCC president and GM, FC Cincinnati, Jeff Berding will be on the show. Alan Koch is out. He lost his job, the second MLS manager to do so this year after Anthony Hudson. They come thick and fast, especially when you call out your squad publicly. Apparently, we will talk to Jeff Berding about what that means, why it happens, and what's coming in the future. Also, Paul Tenorio. You guys
Bobby's staring down the barrel right now.
Bobby was in another.
I think Bobby is actually
planet.
literally watching a soccer game.
He's watching the Chicago Fire play the New England Revolution from last night.
I mean, you do you, Bobby.
He also
You do you.
he puts his phone in his laptop, so he could be watching on the full screen, but instead he watches on his phone.
Also, his posture is atrocious.
Where do you go? Where do you?
I don't know. For those of you watching on YouTube, Bobby's posture and/or facial expressions have been, we've been breaking them down all year long in the comment section.
They just always do bits to start the show.
Doesn't
and
like that.
I'm not a bit guy.
No, he isn't a bit
I'm
guy.
just bad at
You
bits.
are
I let
down
them
to
do their
business.
bits.
Biggest bit guy ever, and you want them so bad.
What bit do I do?
Do not lie.
Name a bit that I do.
You literally come into a show and you go, just know I'm going to say something funny in the first 2 minutes.
No, that's not a.
Wow.
I'm very direct about it when I have it.
I'm about to drop some heat.
You guys watch out. Here it comes.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
You guys have these long running bits. I just like to be direct in what I do.
Gotcha. I just wanted to let you all know out there that Bobby said nothing before this show, so nothing good is coming from him. Paul Tenorio, however, will tell us what's going on with Chicago Fire and Soldier Field. All right, let's get into it. Go download the call-up, Susanna and Jillian. It was awesome. I love the show. I've been watching the pilots from afar and just enjoying them.
Wait, are you overheating?
Am I? Why?
Why, you have a sweatband on.
Oh, yes. I do have a sweatband on. It's got the letters HD on it. That's a thank you for helping me promote something here. MLS referees this month, the month of May, are wearing these blue HD sweatbands. That is for Huntington's Disease Awareness Month. That is because Terry Vaughn, whose name you should recognize if you're a fan of MLS, a former referee here in the league, is fighting Huntington's disease. So some awareness there for you. Go look it up. Help however you can, and best wishes to Terry and his family. So let's get into it. Transfer window time right now. A lot of moves. The deadline wasn't as busy as maybe some people wanted it to be. Looking at you, Matt Doyle, the armchair analyst. What move, what team, what happening stood out
Wait, you
most?
thought it wasn't busy?
I thought it was fine.
I thought it was busier than I expected.
Same.
Well, I always expect it to be like dead quiet.
Yeah.
Especially this one in May because the windows don't line up with other
So it was busy.
leagues. So yeah, there were some trades.
Yeah.
People. Okay, so what do you like?
I like
gets you going?
I like a lot of things. I think I said it on Monday's show. I just like the idea that there are good players on MLS teams that don't get time that could be good on another team. So Lalas Abubakar is one of them. Jonathan Lewis, obviously.
I knew you were going to my guy Lalas.
They both get moved, and then you have a few teams that just I think started to change their identity by making wholesale moves. and then you have a couple big DP moves. So like a lot going on. I'm happy about a lot of it.
I really like that Jonathan Lewis one, and I think he's been so good for the men's national team coming off the bench that he really needed a move to be able to continue his development. And when I think about the progress of MLS and back, maybe when Bobby and I were playing, it was hard often for American guys to get minutes on the field. And
That's changed. I'm kidding.
Oh.
Keep going.
I mean, no, but I think in certain places, there are guys that have been discovered like Christian Roldan comes to mind, where sometimes I think, especially having gone to a local college close by, he could get pushed to the side and not really recognized as early as he did. And now we see that coming to fruition. I think Jonathan Lewis is one of those type of guys that I didn't want to see just get lost. NYCFC, it wasn't going to work for him there. He gets a change of scenery. Colorado Rapids, I think, get a nice player. Their fans have something to look forward to.
Absolutely. And look, NYCFC went and invested, in the middling 200s in allocation money in the Super Draft to go get Jonathan Lewis, if you remember that. And people said, wow, that's a lot of money. They'd done the same thing with Jack Harrison. That one obviously paid off as well. This one pays off for them too. $650,000 in targeted allocation money going from the Colorado Rapids to NYCFC. They also get a 2020 international spot, and they could get another $100K more depending on the performance. You mentioned teams that are kind of turning the page. The Rapids are definitely doing that. They needed an athletic, younger center back. Lawless Abubakar comes their way on a 1-year loan from Columbus Crew. They also jettisoned Benny Feilhaber. It just wasn't going to work. Benny said he wanted to play for a winner. Read between the lines. He was saying he didn't think the Colorado Rapids were going to be that winner. He came out and said it publicly about the back line like 3 weeks ago. Abdul Guatubaye goes the other way, who Sporting KC literally just signed the Rwanda international center back. Also, Colorado is going to get a 2019 international roster spot, a little bit of TAM, a second-round pick, and they swap positions in the waiver order. Let's see. Wallace Abubakar, Jonathan Lewis. Yeah,
they get younger.
They had to make moves.
They get younger too, and that and Costa's there, so they've got some nice pieces, especially looking further ahead. Because I think they've realized this isn't going to get better overnight. They need to create a plan that's going to look good, not just this year, but next year when Tim Howard's gone and the DP slots are opened up, and they can spend some more money to maybe bring some pieces around him. But this is a longer-term plan for the Rapids, and having some good, especially young American players, future or current national team players, that crop of guys, that's something where fans, if I'm a fan of Colorado Rapids, I'm like, yes, I want to go see these guys play now, not because of necessarily what's going to happen this coming weekend, but to invest in their future and to see how this group develops.
Plus, you have Cole Bassett, you have Sam Vines,
Kellen Acosta. You've got, 6 academy kids, I think, in the 18 over the last weekend. So all of those things that you're saying, on top of, this is what we see in American sports. Soccer world is different, but in American sports, when you get to things like trade deadlines, okay, who's out? And then what assets can they use, and how can they be a player in the trade window? Because what do you have to lose? So when you see it in the NBA, it's, okay, who's out of the playoffs? And then how can they pick up future draft picks for old salaries, things like that? How can you help facilitate trades between other teams? Because that's part of what happened was the Rapids are making deals with pieces that were then moved on by other clubs in other moves or will be used in the winters or in the summer. So that's like, why would that not be something you're doing if, let's be real, you could make a run at the playoffs still. It's Major League Soccer. We've seen that happen. But why not take 3 young players and see what you have for the year? And if one of them turns out really good, you can flip them next year if the next coach doesn't want them. And if not, you've got another piece going for the future.
We'll talk about Benny Feilhaber and Sporting KC down later in the show. I want to ask you this, Bobby. We had an MVP, a former MVP traded at one time, a very brief moment, David Accam, from Philly to Columbus. Philly gets basically $500K in allocation and international roster spot. Columbus gets another option, somebody more direct, somebody who has a history of being a really good player in this league in David Accam. Also, they traded away Justin Meram, did the Crew, to Atlanta. His price tag was over $1 million in allocation money just a year ago, something like that. And now it's $100K in GAM and a second-round pick. What did the Crew do? Make sense of these moves for me.
I think the Crew made the biggest shape-up of the MLS hierarchy of everyone on transfer deadline day. And there's a case to be made for Portland and the big money signing of Brian Fernandez. But in my eyes, Portland should have been considered an MLS Cup contender, as it was, because they had the same lineup playing the same way, the same slow start last year. They were already in the picture. Columbus, to me, had been in big trouble. If you look at their roster, if you look at the players they had and the way Caleb Porter wants to play, they were in trouble. David Accam changes that, though. He brings them a new element, not just to solve the original problem, which is, can they get goals from the winger position? But his direct play opens them up in general. To me, when I watch the Crew, they are very good in the middle block, and they are very good passing in their own end in the middle third. But they were slow and unaggressive coming out of both. They could defend, but could they score goals in transition out of defending? They could pass the ball, but could they score goals after having the possession? How do they change pace? How do they actually threaten the goal? David Accam solves all those, not just directly, but he also improves them all indirectly. And now there's the cachet that comes to this with, is he at his best? I'm saying these all with the assumption that it is 2015, 2016, 2017, David Accam, who is a phenomenal MLS player. 2018, he obviously wasn't. So it's a little bit like the gamble they made last year with Justin Meram. It was the exact same conversation, wasn't it? They got the player they needed to fill the holes. Justin Meram, like David Accam, low on confidence, didn't work out.
Also, maybe not playing the way that Caleb Porter might want him to play. More of a come inside, combined sort of guy. Maybe Porter wants somebody a little bit more traditional in that winger spot.
Although,
what's it mean for Philly?
I was going to say, that's not what Caleb Porter made it sound like in the preseason. I think that there's also I said it on the show
I think
before.
it's changing.
This is Greg Berhalter's team still. They brought in Robinho, and that's it. And yeah, they made 4 moves. Like this, I think it was just about changing this roster, changing the makeup of the locker room, changing the makeup of the environment to turn it into Caleb Porter and Tim Pezbachenko's team, which we haven't seen them do yet because they came in so late.
Porter's quote after all this, for the fans out there who are wondering whether I'm the guy or not, I am that guy. That's what he said. It was an incredible quote. I thought it was just imagining him deliver it. I got juiced.
Yeah, and in that locker room, to your point about which Accam are we going to get, he's going to join a bunch of Ghanaian guys on the squad. So I think that will help him to acclimate and feel good about the environment of the team overall. And they need to get a fullback. When he gets back healthy, they've got Mensah, him on the flank.
They did move Abubakar, so that hurts their Ghanaian.
You just did is you said they need a fullback, and I was like, they do need a fullback, but Awful is coming back, and I was like, oh, I see what just happened.
That was the joke that you were hitting us with.
They need to move on. They need to move on from Awful because they had lost 5 straight games until they beat the Galaxy at home on Wednesday night. Congratulations to them on that side. Accam was the leading scorer for the Philadelphia Union.
But he wasn't the player that they brought him in to be. He wasn't a star player who, when you play poorly, will carry you to a victory. He wasn't a guy who created goals out of nothing for them. And you are already this good. So if you're Philly, you honestly had nothing to lose because you get rid of him, and if you don't replace what he did, because now they have all this allocation money and the roster spot to go out in the summer and get the guy they want to fit in. If you don't, you're probably a pretty similar team to what you are right now.
And he was mostly not successful there. That was really sort of a bust for them for a long time. So it's a good bit of business to say, hey, look, he's in good form right now. He's flipped things around. Now's the time to see if we can get some value back, especially when you have the weapons that they do on the flank.
Ernst Tanner's his moves have been good so far.
And to add one more thing, they essentially traded away David Accam for that money, which means they're probably going to keep Montero in the midfield. I blanked on his name for a sec. But they're going to keep Montero. It sounds like they need a little extra money to pay his transfer fee to keep him through the summer. So it's not just David Accam for allocation money. It's essentially David Accam for Montero, who they'd like to keep at center midfield.
Justin Meram just 2 years ago was one of the most devastating 1v1 attacking, creative, goal-scoring wingers in this league. Atlanta United go out and get him, you'd think in part to help them deal with the departure of Ezekiel Barco for the U20 World Cup, but also because maybe he fits Frank de Boer's system pretty well, given that he wants to play possession. He wants to have those guys maybe tuck inside a little bit. I mean, am I right about that? Or is this just like a depth play right now and an attempt to get Justin in a situation where no pressure on you, man, like go out and try to rediscover yourself?
I would not consider Justin Meram a possession winger, because one thing you have to remember about Greg Berhalter's team is they were a possession team, but when they got the ball into the attacking half, they went directly. It's not as if Justin Meram was connecting with Pipe Higuain, who's connecting with Ethan Finley to find their way towards goal. They got into the final third. They already had their space because they broke the team down and created space in their own half. So Justin Meram, to me, is a direct player. I'm not sure he fits in any totally logical way into what Frank de Boer is doing, except that we know is high in talent for 100,000.
Yeah.
That is a no-brainer. You're just accumulating an asset there for a good price and not overthinking, does he fit?
And the criticism we've had of Atlanta United is they've looked mechanical, they've looked predictable, they haven't been able to find a moment of ingenuity, and Justin Meram does supply that, especially when they get down that left flank. Sometimes you see Breck Shea just trying to whip in balls, hopefully. Barco, when he stepped in, last game against Sporting Kansas City, he showed some of that creative drive to be able to go right at the heart of the defense, try and create something. Justin Meram, the best version of him, definitely provides.
And he's different than Wiebe and Gressel. That's the big one to me. It's just a different option when you're at full strength. Of Meram wants to get 1v1, but he uses his technical ability, his feet, to beat you, when Wiebe and Gressel is just like speed and power and trying to beat you, to get around you or get their shoulder around you so that they can get through. And so Meram brings a little bit something different, which is good. But how crazy is it to say that a year and a half ago he was traded for, what was it, 1.6 million in allocation?
It was like, I think it might have been 1.2. Either way, it was.
And now
figures.
it's 1,000. Like it changes fast.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Got to say that trade by Columbus to Orlando, that was good business by them as well to get that value at that time. The biggest move of the window, though. Nearly a 20 goal scorer for the Red Bulls. Tom Barlow.
Talking about big Tommy Barles?
Tommy Barles.
Forever forward. Ben Bear, baby.
Yeah,
Little
Red Bull 2
Wisco love.
forward, signed by the Red Bulls.
Almost scored.
Had to throw it. Yeah, almost did. They almost won, too.
Made Wally's boys go to Ottawa and get a 1-1 draw on school day, 10:15 a.m. kickoff.
Yeah,
Tommy Barlow.
2-1 loss for the Red Bulls midweek against Montreal.
Oh, you're talking about MLS?
Yeah, it was.
I thought we were talking about the U.S.
Oh, well, I was talking about MLS. Either way, Jovan Jones to Seattle. He's back, baby, from Darmstadt. Basically a year. And it's also Xavier Arriaga. They got another DP. They bought down Victor Rodriguez to get him in. He's a 24-year-old center back, basically the captain of Barcelona SC in Ecuador. He has one cap with the Ecuadorian national team. So
Producer Anders came in and was like, the Sounders signed someone from Barca. And I was like,
whoa, that's awesome. But, I mean, this looks like a good deal for them in the sense that they need to get younger at that center back position. He's got some leadership qualities, clearly. He's played a ton of games already in his young career. He's starting to enter his prime, and he's potentially an international player over the next couple of years.
We've talked about it on this show, but center backs, if they're good, are worth their weight in gold in Major League Soccer, but really in the world right now. And Seattle Sounders have been fantastic. They've had some of the best attacking players in MLS history, and yet Chad Marshall has been the key to what they've done, along with Fry, and then Roman Torres at his peak the year they won MLS Cup, and now Chad Marshall's injured right now, towards the end of his career. I really like what Kim Ki-hee brings. Roman Torres isn't a Major League Soccer player right now. Keep him around because he's awesome, and I love him, but he's not a player that you want to put on the field. So this was, for Garth Lagerwhite, once again thinking about the future before just in a potential move to win now, but also to set the club up to be better.
By the way, what's the price of gold right now? Just wondering on the weight.
I'm a big gold guy.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I operate in gold.
It's all about the gold standard here.
Bobby's hands are so cold right now.
To add a wrinkle to that, Chad Marshall probably coming up on his last deal. I think Chad Marshall, like Ozzie Alonso, would like to make more than Seattle are going to pay someone at his age. There are plenty of teams out there who would be nuts not to pay Chad Marshall that amount. So I do wonder how much longer Chad Marshall has with the Sounders, and a low-key idea that maybe Arriaga is actually just the I know it's not a wild idea, so he's a natural heir apparent, but faster than people would think with Chad Marshall seeking a big last contract.
Interesting. LA Galaxy were, making trades, GAM for TAM, TAM for GAM. They made their signing, Fabio Alvarez. We teased him on this show, 26-year-old attacking midfielder, winger from Atletico Tucumán in Argentina, signed as a TAM player. So has a lot of appearances down in Argentina. Maybe he can be a guy who can let that tack get a little bit more variety than just whip it into Zlatan. Let's talk to Sam Stejskal, though, of The Athletic, the Bird Dog. He is on the line now. Sam, what's up, man?
Not too much, Wiebe. How's it going today?
I'm doing pretty well. That awkward moment of greeting when you haven't seen somebody you know for a while, that just happened between you and I right now, this very second.
I mean, I didn't feel awkward. If you want to make it awkward, then it can be awkward, and I'll dive into that. But,
okay.
I was fine. I'll put this is on you.
It is on me. I made it awkward. Let's just talk about the transfer window. You're out there bird dogging, getting all the details. We've gone through our winners and the like, analyzed these moves. But we're wondering here, Jovan Jones is a left back. They also have Brad Smith, and they have your favorite, Nuhu. What happens there, and how did they sign a DP if they're going to sign another DP in the summer?
Yeah, so Jovan Jones is a left back, but he's also a winger. So that helps, first of all, right? It gives them a little positional flexibility. But most of all, this is really good insurance if Brad Smith leaves at the end of June when his loan expires. Seattle want to bring him back, but his purchase option from Bournemouth, where he's on loan from, I've been told is cost prohibitive. There's no way they can bring him back on the number that was negotiated into the loan deal and have that work on the cap. They are trying to get that number lower. There's a possibility they won't be able to, so there's a possibility that Smith will be gone within 2 months. And if that's the event, then you have Jones and Nuhu at left back / left wing, and you're still solid in that position. And even if Smith stays, right, then you have all three options. Maybe you're able to move Nuhu in the summer window. He did get some interest from France in the winter. I would imagine there would be teams in MLS that would be willing to trade for him as well. So then you probably stick with Smith at left back, have Jones play there a little bit here and there, and have him be a really good option for speed on the wing, on the left side, which they don't really have right now. As far as Arriaga, obviously signed as a designated player. From what I've been told, I don't know if they've said this publicly or not, but from what I've been told, he can be bought down with targeted allocation money. So if they want to go out and sign a designated player in the summer window, maybe another central midfielder, perhaps, that's kind of where I would be looking if I was Seattle. Then they can buy him down with Tam and add a third true DP if they so choose.
That fabled summer DP for the Sounders still on the table, says Sam Stejskal. You can follow him on Twitter at Sam Stejskal, writes for The Athletic. I want to talk Revs, and I don't want to talk about the result. I want to talk about the DP that they said they were going to bring in for many, many months. Turns out it was, according to reports, Paul-Jose Mpoku, and it turns out that he ended up snubbing the Revs. What happened here, and what's this mean for New England?
Yeah, so according to reports out of Belgium and by our old friend Kyle McCarthy up here in Boston, the Revs agreed with Standard Liège on a transfer fee to bring Mpoku to New England now, before the primary transfer window closed on Tuesday. Looked all good, presumably, and then they weren't able to come to a personal agreement with Mpoku on his salary, and he turned them down. So he's remaining over there. Whether that means they'll be able to get him in the summer, because from what Brad Friedel was saying, this was like pretty much a done deal, and they were just it was just a question of timing, whether they get him in May or July. So, if they weren't able to agree to personal terms, will they be able to agree to personal terms in the summer? Has that bridge been burned? I don't know. Either way, I do know it's a giant miss for the Revs. They didn't get a reinforcement in, and they desperately needed one. Do they have 2 more months to wait around, or is their season going to be done by then? The way things are going right now, I don't really have a good positive answer for that question. I'm not optimistic that 2 months won't kill them completely. So, huge miss for the Revs in a season, and really a set of seasons that's been nothing but depressing for New England.
We come to you for perspective. Sam, I want your perspective on this. What is the signing, the move, the trade, what have you, that not enough people are talking about that deserves more love?
I think there's two, but one that deserves more love, I think, is Brian Fernandez, which is odd to say because it was definitely the biggest move of the week. But this is a huge, huge signing. One of the biggest transfer fees in league history. We're talking like $8-9 million range. 24-year-old guy entering his prime, coming off a fantastic season in Mexico. Obviously, there are some other issues there in terms of the spitting incident and the previous drug suspension in his past. So it's not all clean. But this is the type of player that Portland are saying, we're going to open our stadium. We're going to play 17 of our last, 22 games at Providence Park in Portland. This guy is going to be what Wayne Rooney was to DC United. Maybe not quite to that extent, but he's going to give us that kind of boost. He gives them a lot of versatility in attack. He can play on the wing. He can play as a striker. I think he had 9 goals as a winger in the Clausura in about 12 games as a winger, which is just an absurd rate for somebody in a wide position. So that's, I think, really huge. And I don't think enough people are talking about that. So I'm excited to see what he does for the Timbers. And I think the other one that's not really being talked about enough is Jonathan Lewis to the Rapids for what I thought was, frankly, somewhat a ridiculous price of $650,000 in allocation, and then an international spot next season. So if you call the international spot 175, say that's worth 175,000 in allocation, you're looking at 825,000 value in allocation money for a guy that's had 775 career professional minutes. Now, I'm not saying Jonathan Lewis isn't a talented player. I think he is. I'm excited to see what he'll be able to do with more opportunities. But that price just seems out of this world to me. So I don't know if that one's been talked about enough either.
Allocation money grows on trees, Sam. Haven't you heard?
Ask Cincinnati about that.
We might later in the show. That's a good tease. Jeff Berding is coming up. That's it for Sam, though. At Sam Stejskal on Twitter. Follow his work at The Athletic. Spread your wings and fly, Sam.
Thanks, Wiebe. I'm trying to. I'm slapping over here pretty hard.
All right. Appreciate you, man.
All right. Have a good one, buddy.
Big thanks to Sam Stejskal for joining us here. He's still doing it, even though he doesn't work for MLS. That's cool. That's very nice of him. Thanks, Sam. But also thank you to you guys.
Oh, you meant coming on the show?
Yeah. I didn't know.
I thought you meant like him still being.
Didn't know if he was
going to
be petty about it. Yeah, I didn't know if he was going to be petty about it.
Sam got love.
Yeah, Brian Fernandez, huge signing. We'll see what happens here with the suspension. We talked about it on the last show. No other way to put it other than they broke the bank for him. He's got a great track record. He should fit into this team, you would think, because he can play multiple positions. And they play a ton of games at home in the second half, so the Timbers, could really make a run. Open Cup, thank you to these two for going down to Florida, calling some games on ESPN+. Every single game is on ESPN+. Now, it is the best thing that has ever happened to anyone in U.S. soccer. Tell us all about it. I mean, this was an incredible first couple days of the tournament.
Yeah. U.S. Open Cup is like, if you like CCL because it's crazy and wild, then U.S. Open Cup's like that times 500, it feels like. You had one team that's flight got canceled, so they got on a bus and drove 5.5 hours, 6 hours before their game was going to kick off, and showed up to the field and walked on the field and played. You had...
like putting on cleats and your jersey in the bus so you
Dunzo.
can... It's like when I'm running late for men's league.
Yep, exactly.
Putting it on the subway.
Games moved stadiums the day of the game because of rain and weather. You had players that you weren't sure if they were going to get cleared like 10 minutes before the game started and stuff like that. And then everyone goes out there, and it's what I love about cup games is like, it doesn't matter. None of that matters. It's 90 minutes. If you get the win, who cares what it looks like? Who cares what's going on around it? I started out with a 4-4 game that had a 119th minute equalizer into penalty kicks between FC Motown, shout out Sachi Hot, and the New York Red Bulls Academy team. And that was amazing. And then last night I had a game where BlackRock FC, which is where Jack Harrison came from, which is running teams out of prep schools in the Berkshires, almost beat the New York Cosmos.
Wow.
And it's like these kids were legitimately high school kids. Not, they're like kids. They were, and they were playing against players who have 70 caps in their life.
El Farolito?
Oh, man.
Named after the Mexican restaurant which sponsors them.
Oh, in San Francisco?
Yeah. You been?
I used to live 6 blocks away from there.
What?
Yeah.
Did they ever recruit you? Because they had a forward who had a little bit of Calen Carr in him, like
really?
Rangy, long legs,
Well,
scores bicycle kicks off the side foot and breaks his arm on it. I mean...
that was insane. Right after I finished playing, I moved back to San Francisco. I was trying to figure it out, get healthy. But I lived like 6 blocks away. I was crashing at a buddy's place from El Farolito, and it's like an open late night spot that serves burritos, cash only. I think
you're not a big El Farolito guy?
No.
What happened?
I ate at El Farolito, and it was the last burrito I ate for 2 years.
Whoa! Don't slander anyone on this show.
I threw up for at least 24 hours.
Yeah. I think that's probably a David Goss problem.
No,
knowing
never
your stomach
happened.
issues.
Fair. That is a fair point. I'd never throw up.
East Coaster, you've never had good Mexican burritos before.
El Farolito, A+ in your book.
Except
right?
for the time I've been to Mexico.
Well, I think I ate so many. I ate my way to retirement. I was kind of on the edge, and then I was like, nah.
Can't continue here.
David's problem is it didn't have hummus on it.
Exactly.
Hummus is what coats
burritos.
his stomach and protects it.
Right.
That's definitely
Do not slander the good name of El Farolito. What a goal that was. I hear we have Cal FC versus Las Vegas Lights in the next round.
That's the big one. Cal FC, who are the last amateur side to upset an MLS team 2012 over the Portland Timbers, take on their former head coach, Eric Winalda, and the Las Vegas Lights. It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be pretty sweet.
Yeah, the tournament was fun, though. It's fun to hear the stories of all these people who are like, yeah, I just fund this out of my pocket because I love soccer, and we all show up, and now all of a sudden we're on ESPN Plus, and we're playing against a professional side that we've gone and seen, and that's what's cool about this tournament.
This Vegas story, I've got to go to a game in Vegas.
Yeah,
they're sponsored by a marijuana company. They did a giveaway where they just literally made it rain from a helicopter.
Yeah, I saw that.
Like, this is madness.
Yeah.
These are all parts of the plan for Mechanicsburg FC.
Nice.
Just so you guys know.
Oh, you're going to have a helicopter with cash?
What? Next Thursday, Bobby, you present us plans for Mechanicsburg FC, okay?
I know they do the llamas. We're more alpaca people.
Okay, I feel that. I saw an alpaca last weekend at the petting zoo.
I think they're called raccoons.
Friendly
in
creatures.
Central Pennsylvania,
Yeah, friendly creatures. Look, MLS midweek, you can go check the highlights, all the scores at MLSsoccer.com. Atlanta beat Toronto at home. Whole lot of woo-woo going on there. Pretty happy about that one. But the big news midweek as related to that came with the Chicago Fire. Paul Tenorio has the lowdown on what's going on between the city of Bridgeview, the Fire, and Soldier Field. He's on the line now. Paul, what's up, man?
It's going well. It's going well. I got to see. I was treated to the Chicago Fire New England Revolution game last night, 5-0 stomping.
Treated is the absolute right word right there. It's a treat to have you on, Paul. It's been too long. I'm going to start calling you the MLS Gopher because you burrow, whereas, I don't know, Sam's more of a bird dog. How do you feel about that?
I don't know. It's not the first time I've been compared to, like a vermin-like creature popping out from the ground. Is that a bad thing? I think so. I used to be called a mole. So,
wow. I feel bad now.
This is not good. This is not good.
We'll go back to the drawing board. Maybe the listeners and watchers on YouTube will have something for us. Paul, let's talk Chicago. I saw you out there talking to Nelson Rodriguez yesterday. He would not comment on this Bridgeview versus Soldier Field thing, so just tell us what's going on.
Yeah, so essentially what happened was that the Village of Bridgeview Board of Trustees has passed a memo of understanding in which they will move forward with amending the lease with the Chicago Fire. Now, Chicago, the Fire and MLS still have to sign an amended lease. That's why Nelson Rodriguez won't comment. But basically what this means is that the Fire are one big step away from being able to move out of SeatGeek Stadium in Bridgeview and move somewhere else downtown. In the short term, Soldier Field, perhaps even in the long term, a soccer-specific stadium in the city of Chicago, but most importantly, out of Bridgeview, which is a location where they just weren't going to be able to grow at the rate that they needed to in order to keep up with Major League Soccer.
Paul, there's been smoke around this one for a long time. Now there's a little fire. I hate myself for saying that. What's this mean for the club? This feels like a huge, huge move.
It is absolutely a huge move. Living here in Chicago, the one thing I've learned very quickly is that the Fire don't have a presence in the city. My friends who are my age don't really know when a Fire game is happening and don't have any interest in going because it requires getting on a bus for an hour out to the stadium. You're there for a few more hours, and you have another hour plus bus ride home. It's a full-day commitment to go to a game in Bridgeview, and for a lot of people, young people in the city who don't have cars or don't want to drive all the way out to Bridgeview, going to Fire games just has never been an option. And as we know, the growth of Major League Soccer has been pushed forward by a millennial generation that in bigger cities like Chicago prefer to go to games via public transportation. It's not every market, right? Kansas City is not the same as Chicago. Orlando is not the same as Chicago. Those types of cities where driving is the norm. But for a city like Chicago, when you can hop on a train and get to a Cubs, Bulls, Blackhawks, White Sox game, Bears games, to leave the city and have to drive 45 minutes to an hour to get to a soccer game, it just wasn't conducive to growing the fan base. And I know a lot of fans point to the Fire and say, well, when they win games, fans come out. In 2017, they had a pretty good team. They sold out 4 games out of 17 that year. By the end of the season, when they played in the playoff game, they had an announced crowd of 11,000 people for their first playoff game since 2012. So it just goes to show that there's a difference between driving crowds for events, for one-off games, or maybe 2 games when it's nice and sunny out in the summer, and building a fan base that's going to be there for every game, that's going to buy season tickets, that's going to create the atmospheres that we see in places like LAFC or Portland. And the Fire didn't really have a chance to do that in Bridgeview. By moving downtown, they will have the chance to do it. Now, I want to emphasize that word because the move itself is not going to accomplish that for the Fire. There are areas where they're going to need to improve. They're going to have to win games and win consistently. They're going to have to put a product on the field that people want to watch, and they're going to have to create an environment at their home games that pull people in. It's going to be tough to do at Soldier Field, but they have to understand that all of those things go hand in hand with this move if it's going to be a success.
State of the organization right now. I know things with the fans haven't always been on the best of terms over the last couple seasons. Results up and down. As it pertains to ownership, Nelson, the squad, where are they headed?
Yeah, I think that's still very much to be determined. If you look at this current tenure under Nelson Rodriguez and Veljko Paunovic, there's not a lot to kind of pull out of this and say, one, this team has X identity. I don't think we can look at the Fire and say that they play this style or they want to be this kind of team. They haven't done that at all. They shift formations, they shift identities from game to game. You look at the tenure over the last 3+ years. 2016 was a down year, kind of a rebuilding the roster. 17, they had a really nice 2.5-month stretch that propelled them to a third-place finish. And then last year at the bottom of the table again. So far this season, the start's been kind of iffy in a weak Eastern Conference. They're still under the red line despite having played 6 of 11 games at home. But they have a better roster, some better pieces, and I think that we saw against a bad New England team last night kind of what their potential is if all those offensive pieces are clicking. I still think that, for me, the jury's still out on kind of the state of the team as it is right now. But there are some positive signs, and here are the positive signs if you're a Fire fan that you can grab a hold of. Out of 3 of the last 4 years, they've been in the top 6 in spending on salary in Major League Soccer. So that's important. They're willing to spend money. That's going to have to translate into transfer fees as well, but they've spent on transfer fees for Katai, for Nikolic, so there is a willingness now to spend more money than they had in previous years. That's important. 2, yesterday, Nelson Rodriguez said that they just had approved by ownership an increase in their scouting budget by $500,000. They plan to bring on 2 more full-time scouts. That's a positive sign. They needed to overhaul that entire part of their scouting network. It seems like that's beginning to take place. They already brought in Eddie Rock a couple years ago as the director of soccer operations to work along Nelson Rodriguez. So progress is being made there as well. And then this is a huge one for me with infrastructure. The Fire's training facility is the worst in Major League Soccer. There's one field essentially out behind SeatGeek Stadium, and it's not a good one. And part of that is down to the lease. The village of Bridgeview was the one maintaining the field, both in the stadium and the training field. The Fire did not have the ability to build a training facility outside of Bridgeview, didn't want to commit to building one in Bridgeview, knowing that they were trying to get out of the lease eventually. What Nelson Rodriguez said yesterday was important. One, that they're going to already start building a better training facility, or at least better facilities in Bridgeview starting this summer. That's huge for recruitment purposes and really for the quality of the team itself. And they're looking to build a facility somewhere outside of Bridgeview down the road in the future. So when you look at all those things, I think things are trending up for the Fire, but it's really important that they start to get some of these player signings right on the field. They need Gaetan to be legitimate. They need Gaetan to be what he was a few years ago. They need Calvo to work out and be living up to his potential. They need all 3 DPs are coming out of contract at the end of the season. They need all 3 of their next DP signings to be hit. All those things need to happen, but I do think there are positive signs for this Fire franchise as they look to move into the city of Chicago.
Want to know more about the Fire? Soccer in Chicago. Paul Tenorio is your man. At Paul Tenorio on Twitter. He writes for The Athletic. Love subscribing to you guys, Paul. Thanks for coming on. We'll try to figure out a better nickname for you, okay?
Thank you so much. Yeah, let's see if we can top the Bird Dog. That's a tough one to top. But
no
I can't
voles
let
or vermin. No vermin for Paul Tenorio, folks. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Andrew.
Big thanks to Paul Tenorio. Big news for the Fire. We'll see how that all shakes out, all in the coverage here. MLSsoccer.com, Extra Time, and on The Athletic with Paul Tenorio. A little bit of news here. New England Revolution and Chelsea FC are going to have their final whistle on Hate Match. It's a friendly aimed at combating anti-Semitism. It's going to air on FS1 May 15th at 8 p.m. Eastern. Katie Witham, John Strong, Stu Holden, the whole crew going to be there for a big friendly for the Revs for a very, very important cause. Let's talk about FC Cincinnati now, though, guys. Alan Koch made it 11 games. That is the 3rd fewest for a full-time head coach in MLS history. Eddie Firmani made 8. 1996 for the New York Metro Stars. That wasn't very many. And then Thomas Rongen made 10 for Chivas USA in their first season. Jeff Berding, the GM and president, will join us in just 1 second. I spoke to him earlier this morning. I need your guys' quick takes. I wrote my column. It's on MLSsoccer.com. You can read it there. Calen, get us started. First impressions.
Just surprised to see them make a change this quickly. Not based on the results. I mean, the results were definitely not there, and I don't disagree with the decision. But just you would think for an expansion team that you would have maybe vetted this decision a little bit better,
set a better foundation.
Yeah. So disappointing on a personal level. I like Alan Koch a lot. I thought he's been into our studio. Really great guy. I don't know much about him as a manager, but the results weren't there. And now I think it's just indicative that if the results aren't there, if it gets going the wrong direction quickly, the leash is on MLS coaches. The pressure is high right now.
I actually want to add to that, Calen, because it's not just the fact that the results go against you in a vacuum. It's if the results go against you and it doesn't feel like you have a common idea and you are pushing towards a common goal with your team. Because that was the trend with both Colorado and Cincinnati. It's not just that they were losing. It's what kind of team are they, and what are they actually getting better at to potentially be good in the future?
Yeah, and can you keep the locker room? Because that seemed like it. You lose the locker room, you go out and you make these comments about the players. That's usually the end of the road. Seems like it.
Anything?
No.
Dave? No?
We've talked about all of it, and everything that's come out is what we've all been hearing and what we've been talking about here, and what Bobby said and what Calen said. They lost the locker room. They didn't have ideas. Someone put this roster together. Someone else maybe had ideas that the players didn't come in, and I think Alan Koch was a huge part of everything that's happened. But
he's not the only part. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. There are other people in this organization that chose to use Alan Koch for this role. And they had over a year with him in USL to know the type of person that he was and how he operated, and the soccer that he played at that level. So it wasn't all a surprise. I think I've made it pretty evident on this show that I wasn't a fan of the way he was building this team and playing, and that's because I'd seen them for a year and a half. And so we'll see what the next move is.
The man who made that hire is Jeff Berding. He's the president and GM of FC Cincinnati. I spoke to him earlier this morning for AT&T Call to the Field. All right, it's time for 10 minutes with Jeff Berding, president and GM of FC Cincinnati. That's our AT&T Call to the Field. Jeff, I think you know what we're going to be talking about here. Welcome to the show.
Good to be with you, Andrew. Thank you.
So, in your words, you'll be starting from, quote, a blank page in the coaching search. That tells me and everybody else that you didn't expect to have to do this. What was the tipping point on your end?
Well, I don't know that there was one moment. We didn't just flip the switch and wake up to make the change. We certainly are constantly evaluating our team, our staff, whether it's on the business side or here on the soccer side. But there's no question we have not come close to maximizing the talent we have in the dressing room. I certainly heard you last week on the show. There was discussion that FC Cincinnati has good talent. We believe, we agree. And we just didn't see the foundation being built that's going to set us up for success. The culture within the staff, within the locker room, it was just not going to be conducive to having success. And it wasn't going to change. And upon that evaluation, Carl Linder and I decided that relieving Alan of his duties as head coach, putting Johan in charge on an interim basis, someone who's going to bring a positive energy and a team approach, who's respected and trusted, and then give us the opportunity, as you said, in the lead, to start from scratch and make sure we get the leader who can set FC Cincinnati up for success in Major League Soccer.
I listened very closely both in your press release and now, and this is professional communication ultimately, Jeff, and the word choice is interesting, and culture's been the word. You said it wasn't results. You build and lead organizations for a living. In your words, culture is the underpinning of all success. So what makes a culture so untenable that the leader must go? Why wasn't this going to change?
Well, you're right. I'm a big believer when you see championship teams in any sport, there is a culture about them that carries throughout the organization. It carries throughout each and every player. Whether players come and go, that culture is very strong. We've achieved a Major League franchise in record time. We had 277 days. I think LA had 1,221 days. I think Atlanta had about 1,054 days. So we did this in record time, and we did it with a strong culture throughout the organization, but obviously primarily on the business side. And I certainly didn't see this coming, but as I paid more attention and evaluated the culture, the belief in our players, the belief in a positive culture based on trust, based on hard work. What I've said about Johan, we think that that's going to be welcome, and usually it's that type of culture that leads to winning and positive results in any organization, whether in sports or in business.
So certainly firing your coach 11 games in your first MLS season is not the decision that you would have wanted to make personally. In my experience, executives ask for actionable items to drive improvement. I know there's a lot of buzzwords there. What changes must you make as you do the interviewing and decision-making on this next hire? What have you learned?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Andrew. It's a very fair one for sure. As I just noted, we've done this in record time, and there's no question, and I think it's healthy. At times, we're going to make mistakes, and the key is to learn from the mistakes. And no question, we have to learn here. We've covered a lot of ground building our franchise in record time. On the business side, obviously we've done well, and on the soccer side, to be fair, we had a record-setting USL championship last year in the regular season. Our plan always acknowledged we'd have to grow into MLS on the business side and on the soccer front. We thought that while we worked on the soccer transition, we would trust our existing staff, Alan, the coaches, Luke Sassano, to take the lead while we got into the league and learned and evolved. For months now, we've been studying our technical structure, our staffing, and eyeing improvements to build a strong foundation on the soccer side, as we've done on the business side of FC Cincinnati. As I said in the press conference, I take responsibility. I'm president of the franchise. All decisions fall on me, and I'll own the changes that we're going to make. But there's no question that in making this transition in record time, we've had some learning, some evolution. And in particularly on the soccer side, I would offer we felt comfortable giving our existing people the chance to promote from within and let them lead it. And we would work on the evolution as we entered the league. If we had 1,000 days, maybe some of this evolution would have taken place before we suited up for the first game. But we've been doing this on the fly, and we have to own the results and then take responsibility for making positive changes.
It sounds to me like in some ways you felt a little bit hurried. What does that mean for the ideal timeline here? I would assume that means you don't want to rush into things, but ultimately you got to have that next figurehead, not just for the team, but for transfer windows and the long-term direction of the club.
No, you're 100%, and the change has been made because it was never going to get better, and we gave ourselves the opportunity to bring in Yohan on an interim basis as a steadying force. He'll begin to develop an academy, a better purpose. He'll prepare the team better, and he'll certainly bring a positive energy. The players were unified in their belief in Yohan that he can maximize results. Having said that, immediately here we're starting a search, and we're going through a process where we certainly feel urgency, but I want to stress, to your point, the most important thing is to get it right. And because we believe in Yohan as a stabilizing force who can prepare and maximize, we feel we have some time. Do we feel we have unlimited time? No, of course not, right? It's a balancing act. But we do believe in our players, and the best thing that we can do is make good decisions regarding structure and leadership to set them up for success, and we're going to take this opportunity.
I just want to read some names here, Jeff, for our listeners about the guys that are being linked right now. David Moyes, Alan Pardew, Jason Kreis, perhaps. I just want to throw out that Bruce Arena is lurking around these U.S. soccer circles somewhere in case somehow someone forgot. What are the stakes on this hire for you, for the club? What does your gut tell you that this team needs? And might it be a guy like David Moyes?
Well, let me say, the stakes are enormous. We're in a results business, and we haven't started out how we wanted. So I understand, Carl Lindner understands, that we need to get this right. And obviously for us, it starts with we want someone who's proven. We went from a promotion from within and a bit of a projection. It didn't work out as we hoped. So we're going to want someone who's proven. We want someone who has a track record of a positive energy, of a strong leader, of culture within the locker room, where we can literally talk to former players and former coaches and former GMs and get a real understanding of how the person is day in and day out. Is there a level of consistency there? Beyond that, we're working through some things internally, but I can say that, from a macro standpoint, the experience and the proven in the manner I just stated will be the foundations from which we'll make the decision.
Jeff, one more for you, and we'll let you go here. I know you have a busy day. Your first transfer window officially as an MLS club is now closed. Your first squad is built. It's got to wait till the summer to make any improvements. What did you learn about this process, and how would you respond to those who say that FC Cincinnati have used their primary expansion advantage, namely the roster blank slate and that big bundle of expansion cash, unwisely? That's been a common theme out there.
Yeah. Listen, we have to own that. As I said, I do think we have good talent on this team. We have some guys who have won championships in different leagues, including our league. But there's no question we've not put them in the best position, and we have to change that. I would offer, as I said, 277 days. We relied on Alan Koch. There's not a single guy here who Alan didn't want. If the coach doesn't believe in the player, is not going to put the player on the field, it's not worth signing the player in most cases. And so Luke Sassano has done a good job sourcing players. Sometimes those players became FC Cincinnati players, and other times, they didn't. But we have to own the results. Ultimately, I'm accountable. I set up a system where we let our existing staff, as we transition from the USL, take the lead. And in our business, the results are the verdict, and we have to do a heck of a lot better.
All right. A coach to hire here, more work to do on that stadium, on the training ground, building the fan base, everything going down in Cincinnati. Jeff Berding, president and GM of the club. Thank you, Jeff, for your time today.
Thanks, Andrew. Good to be with you.
All right, FC Cincinnati fans, 401-206-0MLS, extra time at MLSsoccer.com. Give us your thoughts on that interview with Jeff Berding. A lot to digest there. They have a interesting road ahead. They got to get this next hire right. Some big names, some MLS names. Berding said to me on that interview, guys, that they're looking for somebody with experience. Not going to say in this same sort of risk, let's call it, that they took last time. Johan de Mee is the new interim coach. He's 29 years old, 53 days. At least he will be when he takes the field this weekend. Who was younger? A, nobody. B, who was close in Major League Soccer? I have the list here, but I can't show it to you. Last time I gave it away. Right. Yeah, last time I gave it away.
Mike
Any
Pecky?
guesses? No.
You don't know it off the top of your head.
To look. Here it is.
Younger?
Roy Wegerle, 32 years, 186 days. Then Ben Olsen, he's been around a long time. Jason Christ was part of this. Jim Curtin as well, and Ryan Nelson. So a lot of former players.
Yeah, all guys who walked right off the field.
Were previously in that position in Major League Soccer. Look, the weekend is coming, week 11. It's going to be a good one. Dallas Red Bulls on Univision. That's on Twitter as well. And DAZN in Canada, 2 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. Los Angeles, NYCFC, 4 p.m. Eastern on ESPN, also on Saturday. And Atlanta, Orlando on Sundays at 2:30 p.m. Eastern on Fox.
Also, I'll be at the Toronto FC game for fun, so if anyone's there, say hi.
Oh, nice. You're going to Toronto.
Yeah, I got a wedding.
Got a wedding. Nice. And then the
always in the 6, baby.
Final of the weekend, DC Sporting KC at 7 p.m. Eastern on FS1, MLS Live on DAZN. In Canada, Benny Feilhaber may be making his first appearance for Sporting Kansas City, giving a little bit of extra to that midfield after they've lost Roger Espinoza long term. But even more importantly, Calen, that relates to the movement. DC.
Yeah.
It's out, baby. We have a clip.
Out.
We have a clip, right? Can we play a little bit of sample from the movement?
Let's do it.
In 10 years from now, I don't know where I will be, but wherever I go, I know that I will have soccer with me, the sport that shatters barriers and embraces diversity, the sport that is very much like my city, DC. We live in times where backgrounds, beliefs, politics can be divisive, where news can confuse and make communities feel indecisive. But DC, like soccer, is a space where we're all united to get excited, where collaboration is demanded.
I'm excited. I'm excited.
Yeah,
What's
that'll
the
grab you.
thrust of this story? That's an incredible performance by who is that?
That's Charity Blackwell.
Ooh, that's
DC
powerful,
yeah,
man.
Yeah, she's awesome. Well, she's running an amazing program that DC United supports called DC Scores, which is a spoken word poetry and soccer program in DC. They've got so we went down there. Basically, the story overall is looking at the legacy of African American soccer in the district. So we went and talked to Lincoln Phillips, who is the legendary manager, former pro, the first Black professional head coach in U.S. soccer history. for the Washington Darts. And then he won the title with Howard University. And so Bill Hamid knows him because he's a former goalkeeper. Lincoln is, and has a real influence on Bill. So we kind of weave through this whole historical story and update it to present day. So, it was really cool. I think people will really like it.
YouTube, that's where that's at?
Yeah.
So they can find it on the MLS channel as well? So you're here watching this right now probably on YouTube. So
absolutely.
One click over.
Should be.
That's just the first episode. There's a bunch more coming, yeah?
Yeah, there's more coming. But yeah, watch this one. I think this one will hopefully have some impact. I mean, the big thing for me here is like, there's a lot of people doing this, like Black Arrow, a lot of different like content creators out there that are telling these stories. But we always talk about how do we get more Black and brown kids involved playing. And sometimes it's framed as we need to introduce this sport to them. And I think with the legacy of the Howard teams and the Diplomats and the Darts back in DC, how do we connect that narrative to what's happening with DC United and some of the players there? And then also, how did the next generation understand that story and feel like, they have ownership of the game and it's already a part of the history there?
The movement, it is, in all honesty, my favorite piece of content that we produce here at MLS. Let's get into
Thank you.
I am, man. Let's get into the mailbag. Someone named Lagos Out with a Minnesota United logo won with 123 points last week. So, yeah, you got your opinion out there, man. Let's see what kind of jersey they're going to get. Dave's digging around in the swag bag.
Wow.
Oh, my God.
This was not
that's 2
I
weeks in a
don't
row?
look in. I swear I don't look in.
That is a Minnesota United jersey, and I'm trying. Oh, that's a Darwin Quintero jersey.
Oh.
For my guy, Lagos Out, which, they're doing pretty well this year, man. They made some good moves, Darwin Quintero included.
He's got to be a starter at All-Star. I want him starting.
Let's go.
Yeah, that's fair.
Mailbag time.
Ryan from Juarez says, I thought that I heard that Brian Fernandez could be available for Portland as soon as this weekend, but it's the Ligia. Am I hearing correctly that Necaxa sold the second leading scorer of Clausura 2019 right before the playoffs?
You are. They wanted the cashola, man. They wanted to get that money.
Wow.
But that is definitely going to take a hit in Ligia. I mean, he is arguably your best player.
Yep.
Second leading scorer.
Dusty in Cascadia says, when I read about Seattle's trades today, I was taken by surprise and thought, wow, this is unexpected, but truly fantastic. This kind of move, and listening to Lagerwey talk about the details of it, truly show how having a competent front office is key to a team's success.
These were great moves. They feel like really good moves for the long-term future of the club. Bobby, you're over there, I think, watching a game again. Garth Lagerwey, we've had him in this studio. He seems to be one of those differentiating factors in Major League Soccer where, yeah, you go sign the best players, but you got to have the guy that sets the tone, yeah? It's not just this. It was GA Cup. It is now Tacoma Defiance. It is the overall build that they have and the system they have in place.
Yeah, Garth Lagerwey doing good moves is not exactly breaking news because it's the farther I get into this profession, the more I see that this job is a top-down success-driven model, right? The team president and the general manager probably matter more than the players in any given moment because they're the ones that keep the constant cycle going. When you have a guy like Garth Lagerwey, it puts you at a constant advantage.
Brett from Kentucky, now that Alan Koch is out, when will Wiebe jump back on our bandwagon? Also, can we sign his son as a striker?
He's got both feet pretty good right now, is Cameron Wiebe. I was on the bandwagon, wasn't I? I was like out front. I was out front waving the flags. I was, I got the Instagram story pinned to the top of my profile now because it was that powerful. It's not that I was ever off the bandwagon, but it wasn't pretty. Wasn't pretty, man. Maybe it'll get better now.
Last one here, since I know Wiebe likes names, I'll put this up front. Matt from Red Bull Arena. Better luck with the suite next time. Apparently, that's something you complained about.
What? Did I complain about a suite?
I don't know. Miguel Almiron's Newcastle are now safe from relegation, and despite not scoring any goals, Almiron was frequently their most dangerous player and obviously deserves most of the credit for saving their season. Which player from MLS in 2019 will most likely single-handedly save a European side in 2020?
Oh, boy. Albert Elise could be a shout-out for that one. Like, if he goes to a mid to bottom table team in one of the big five, he could definitely be a shout-out for that and comes in and gets hot and it's just, like, unplayable for 2-3 months.
Yeah.
Lucho Acosta?
Lucho Acosta? Whoa. Yeah, that could do it. He could
a good
do
one.
it. What about Ezekiel Barco?
Barquito.
What if Barquito comes off that U20 World Cup? I don't know. Maybe they keep him through the rest of the season and they sell him in the winter?
I think that Barco will go to a club of a larger background.
Gotcha.
I think the best guess would be Zach Steffen going on loan somewhere.
Oh.
God, Bobby,
Galaxy
you're so
brain.
realistic.
Yeah, that's a bit.
Well, if my answer was going to say Ilsinho, but
Yeah. You know what is a bit though, Bobby?
Bobby, your
You
hands are so
touching
cold.
you touching Dave.
Yeah,
that has now become a
There's
bit.
a lot of love here.
It is.
No, I don't mind the love. I'm all
But
about
you seem
camaraderie.
very uncomfortable with this.
Well, did
Like,
you
you're
know
trying to get
there
out
was
of
an
that.
actual research done that in 2007 they ranked every NBA team based on how often they had touching confirmation, like high fives, pats, and stuff. And the Spurs were number 1, and they won the title. And they say basically the list goes in order of who was most successful. So positive touching
touchy.
is good.
Great
It's just
show,
Bobby's
guys.
hands are really cold.
Really
For the
well done.
podcast.
and
For the
next week we do a study on which way correlation goes.
Ooh.
All right, Stanford.
Yeah.
We're getting out of here. Sam Stejskal, Paul Tenorio, thank you to both of them. You can catch their
Go
work
Cal
at
Bears.
The Athletic. Big thanks to Jeff Berding for coming on from FC Cincinnati. We're out of here. We'll be back on Monday to wrap up the weekend that was. See you then.